Hello everyone and welcome to the Bloom Institute Biology and Health Summer Course for Middle School. So here's your introduction to the course. This course will span a total of 9 classes and we'll be working a range of topics from the parts of living organisms to how our ecosystem works, as well as the evolution of different living beings. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you learned something exciting. This course will prepare you for the future activities you have in biology. So, my name is Aryan and I'm a rising sophomore at Fremont High School, Sunnyvale. I have a passion for environmental, food, and energy sciences, and some of my interests include debate, badminton, and listening to music. I'm very excited for this opportunity to participate in Bloom Institute as an instructor, and I hope to persevere further to connect with people and students and spread knowledge about STEM and biology. Here is the first class, which is the basics of plants. You can write this down in your notes and let's get started. So here are the parts of a plant cell. We'll be focusing on mostly the chloroplast and the mitochondria in this unit, but you can just write down these different parts. So you can take a second to jot this down and the image as well. So these are the most important cell parts. So plant cells are different from animal cells, but most of these parts are common between both. The chloroplast is exclusive to plants. Please write this down. It's responsible for photosynthesis, which is like the process of turning sunlight into energy, and it creates the products of oxygen and glucose. And then oxygen and glucose go to the mitochondria, which does cellular respiration, which we'll learn about later, and it creates the products of carbon dioxide, water, and 36 ATP, which is life energy. And I think you should write down at least 3 of these, and the 3 you should write down is probably the mitochondria, chloroplast, and nucleus, because the nucleus contains the DNA of the plant and its genetic makeup and instructions. Okay, so let's get started with the rest of the class. So reproduction is the process of making new organisms. Parent organisms reproduce to make the offspring. When organisms reproduce, they pass on their genetic information to their offspring. This genetic information includes genes, which are pieces of hereditary material that affect an organism's inherited traits. Asexual reproduction means that an organism only needs itself to give life to another organism. So many plants reproduce asexually. During this type of reproduction, a single parent produces offspring. The offspring has the same genes and therefore the same inherited traits as the parent. Sexual reproduction involves the production of separate male and female gametophytes that produce gametes. In plants, pollen helps sexual reproduction. During this type of reproduction, the parent genes determines the offspring genes. The offspring have a mix of their genes and therefore the similar inherited traits as the parents, of course. And you can make any notes on this and this one as well. You can pause the video, please feel free. And then here we'll be learning about Punnett squares, which come from the question, hey, which of my parents are going to have a more influential factor on me for my genetic makeup? So we'll be learning about that and how to calculate the percentage of which traits are going to be dominant. So an allele is a possible version of a gene represented with capital and lowercase letters. Alleles determine the genetic expression of an organism. A phenotype are observable physical traits. Like, for example, my hair color or my skin color are observable physical traits. Okay, keep that in mind. And a genotype is biological and genetic traits that cannot be seen physically. So like biological factors. And then another thing I want to say about alleles before we move on to the genes is they're like flavors. So think of a gene as something that can have different flavors. Like gene is like an ice cream and allele is the flavor of an ice cream. So alleles can vary in versions, and basically they're different types of like flavors of an ice cream which you can choose from, for example. Yeah, so dominant genes is a version of a gene or an allele that can express its trait in the presence of another allele. If an organism has one dominant allele and one recessive trait for an allele, the dominant trait will always be observed. Please keep this in mind because this is really important for biology, and you'll be using this a lot as you move forward in middle and high school. And then recessive alleles are the alleles that will be hidden while in the presence of another allele. The only one way that recessive alleles are expressed is when there are two recessive alleles. Basically like both recessive alleles in the same, like the trait. And then here are the traits. So homozygous traits are when two of them have the same allele. For example, uppercase B, or lowercase b, lowercase b. So that one is dominant, the both uppercase, and one is recessive, the both lowercase, right? And then dominant traits is when both alleles in the trait are dominant, which means the dominant trait is obviously expressed. And then the recessive, this is when both alleles in the trait are recessive, which means the recessive trait is expressed. And then heterozygous traits is when these traits have two different alleles, for example, uppercase B and lowercase b. When this happens, the dominant allele is always expressed. It's like a boxing match. Like if there's someone who's really like weak versus someone who's really strong, the stronger person will always win in the boxing match. Just like that, the uppercase allele will always be shown in the expression over the recessive allele. We can go over this more in the next few slides. So we can use these squares called Punnett squares, which are kind of like multiplication tables, to find out the percentage of what genes the offspring would have. So in this picture to the right, we can see that one parent is heterozygous with a uppercase Y and a lowercase y, and the other is homozygous, which means like both are same, and recessive, which we can see the lowercase recessive and lowercase recessive Y gene, which means it's green. So the lowercase y is green and the uppercase y is yellow. So this results in their offspring having a chance of 2 yellow and 2 green, because the uppercase y represents a yellow, right? But even if there's a lowercase y next to it, the uppercase y will always win over the lowercase one, and thus the organism that has been multiplied from these two genetic traits will always be a yellow offspring, because there was a yellow dominant allele. So we can get 2 yellow phenotypes from these parents, or 2 green, sorry. And then the genotype would be 2 lowercase y, 2 lowercase y, which are the 2 green ones, right? Because they're the recessive one, thus they need 2 of them to actually be green. And then or 2 uppercase y, lowercase y, which is the 2 yellow, and 0 both uppercase y, because the other parent does not have a yellow one, only one of the parents has a yellow. So as you can see, the uppercase y only needs one chance to take over the entire expression of the trait and the gene, right? And then the lowercase ones will always need 2 tries to make the gene green. The offspring green. So we can see that the uppercase allele, or the dominant allele, is more powerful and has more of an impact on the genetic expression of the organism than the lowercase one, because of its higher percentage of how it can create those traits. So here are some Punnett square example questions. So in guinea pigs, short hair, uppercase S, is dominant to long hair, lowercase s, which is recessive. So complete these following Punnett squares. You can maybe do this on your paper. So one guinea pig is uppercase s, lowercase s, and one is lowercase s, lowercase s. So cross them and see the genotypes and phenotypes. So phenotype is physical and genotype is actually the back end, like it's the actual, like the coding for the phenotype. It's like literally the description in letters of that genetic trait. So we can see here that the genotype would be 0 SS because none of the parents, none of any of these parents has another one of these S, the uppercase S. Thus, if one uppercase S multiplies with any of these, it cannot be two S's like the uppercase S because there is no uppercase S here. And then two uppercase S, lowercase s, because the uppercase S can multiply with the lowercase s, and two lowercase s, because obviously the lowercase s's are really common here. And the phenotype is two short hair and two long hair. As we can see, short hair is dominant to long hair, and because it's dominant, it doesn't need two of those alleles to be expressed outwardly. It just needs one uppercase S and one lowercase s, and still the whole thing will be short hair for the organism. And then both guinea pigs are heterozygous for short hair. The genotype will be 1SS, so that's the probability. So 25% chance that the organism could have short hair. Then a 50% chance to uppercase S, again, that the organism could have short hair. See, so both of these will lead to the same expression, even the uppercase S and the uppercase S lowercase s, because the smaller s will not be observed physically, only genetically. And then the other one is both lowercase s, which will lead the organism to have long hair. So 75%, right, will have short hair, which is 3, and 1 will have long hair, because there was 1 with SS, 2 with S and then lowercase s, and 1 with lowercase s. That means that this one, the first one, has definitely short hair. The second two both have short hair. Only the third one has long hair, which makes it a 25% having long hair, and a 75% will have short hair. So that means the organism of these two parents is more likely to have short hair than long hair. 75% more likely to have short hair. You can write this down, and I hope you can understand the basic principle of these Punnett squares. And I hope you can understand these percentages as well and where they're coming from. Yeah, so we'll take a break for now. Feel free to pause the video if you want, and then after that we'll review some basic stuff. Okay, so here's a review. Oh, my email. Okay, here's a review. So try to recall the most important parts of a cell before we jump into the lesson next class about animals and evolution. The more you know these three parts of the key parts of these functions, you'll better understand biology. So the mitochondria is responsible for cellular respiration, the chloroplast is responsible for photosynthesis, and then the nucleus contains DNA and instructions for the genetic makeup. You guys can write any of this down and just keep it in mind as you study and prepare for any of the next classes. This will really help you next time in biology or any of the classes that you take in middle school. So I hope you guys understood this class, and it has been really nice teaching this class. So thank you so much. See you next time in our second class, and have a good day.